From Pocketnow.com, this is Pocketnow Weekly.
Live from Las Vegas, it's episode 026, and the special CES edition of the Pocketnow Weekly podcast, the once-a-week series from Pocketnow.com, where we discuss the awesome and the awful in the world of mobile technology. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, senior editor at Pocketnow, and joining me this broadcast, overlooking the Las Vegas Strip and a very enticing In-N-Out burger in the distance. From the Luxor Hotel at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show 2013, are Brandon Miniman and Jaime Rivera. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Hi. You start. Good morning.
Yes. We have been having such a ball, and we are continuing to have a ball.
This is so weird.
Isn't it weird? We can see each other.
This is weird. I feel very... What's the word?
Put off. You feel very peculiar.
Say I feel gassy.
Oh, good. Oh, please leave the room then.
No, I think I need to be burped is what I'm saying.
I was about to say, gassy in my country is not what you're doing.
What does that mean?
Just go outside. Take care of it.
We've all come.
That'll give me a chance to have some teddy bears.
You're gonna completely annihilate the microphone. Just
right.
Take it outside.
Yeah, microphones are very sensitive.
Very
sensitive to that.
All right, this is
so we've all come hundreds of miles to come here for CES. I came from Boston. Jaime from Honduras, and Brandon from the Pocketnow headquarters, deep underneath rural Pennsylvania, the Pocketnow complex. And it's been an interesting show. This is only the second time we've ever done a podcast where we can see each other. The first time being at IFA when Tony and I did our shirtless podcast from the room.
Shirtless.
Did anyone know that? Is that new
I think
information?
we said it. We said it on the air. I think it was great.
Were
But
your pants on?
no, pants are never on. This is a no pants podcast. But the important takeaway from all that is that it's really nothing. It was just filler. We're getting to enjoy one another's company. Jaime's voice is terrible.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not your fault because my voice is also terrible. We're all suffering from this desert air, which is the driest we've ever encountered, and we're not feeling too healthy. Yeah, we will.
We'll survive.
This is only my second trade show ever, and this is what you guys is like 21st or something like that. So I'm still reeling from the level of activity.
It's my fourth CES, and this was definitely the most organized of them all because we were well-oiled.
On our team.
Yeah,
on our side.
We just got so many videos done. I feel like I need to make eye contact with the microphone. This is so weird. I'm
very peculiar.
Staring at this like a large...
Don't say what it looks
what we said in the pre-show.
It looks like a unicorn.
Listeners, by the way, this is a Blue Yeti. So
it's an amazing microphone.
Just look it up.
It really is.
You could be standing like in another hotel and it would pick up the audio as clearly as.
But the point being is he's staring at the microphone and complaining, and if you see the shape of the microphone, you'll understand why.
Yeah, it looks like a big vitamin capsule.
Check Twitter to see how Michael referred to it.
Oh dear God, yes. If you haven't been following our Twitter, you should listen till the end of the show for our Twitter handles. But if you have not listened to the show before, if this is for some reason your first time listening to the Pocketnow Weekly, understand that we only do audio podcasts, so it is very strange for us to be in the same room. But let's talk about the show a little bit, because I feel like CES, my first CES, was frankly a bit of a letdown from a hardware perspective. Mm-hmm. And I woke up this morning reading some stories, some wrap-up stories. This is the last day of the show, but people are already writing wrap-ups. And they're talking about how this CES had some of the least amount of hardware in history. What, last year you said AT&T launched 6 devices here?
6 devices, out of which they only had like 3 on the show floor.
Okay.
And you really had to dig. I mean, last year it was okay, but if you see my wrap-up of last year, I was disappointed as well. I was expecting tablets. There was pretty much only one tablet, which was waterproof, and I could never find.
Right.
From Pantech.
The Pantech thing,
and
right, yeah.
Even though it wasn't vaporware, it wasn't really something interesting, but there was a lot of vaporware, a lot of devices that were announced or concepts, and they never saw the light of day.
And that's last year you're talking about. That's 2012. I would have killed for that this year. That sounds perfect. That sounds awesome to me this year, because this year
companies just don't want to share the spotlight. They want to do their own event.
Yeah, and frame it themselves like they want to host you at their own thing.
It's weird because they're kind of obligated to show something, but they don't want to pull out their big guns.
Right.
Except for Sony, which is very strange. And the show almost has become about Sony in the last couple of years, where they've announced their they're awesome products.
Agreed.
Because Sony doesn't really do those big events, right?
Their own like big self-contained events? No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
certainly not in
New York.
America. I never.
They had a
seen it.
really good MWC event last year. And
What did they have?
Well, they launched the Xperia S, the Xperia. I already forget the names.
The Xperia family of letters.
There were 3 Xperias, no tablets mentioned, and it was a really good event.
Yeah.
Very well organized, and they delivered, but Sony took a really good spotlight this year. But then when you look at the other companies that we're used to seeing at CES, like Microsoft, or for example, Nokia had a really good event last year, and they had nothing this year.
They weren't even. They had a press room. They had a press room and a cocktail party, and that's about it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a very it's just kind of interesting because if you look at the event schedules, you'll see that almost everything is about mobile. Like Monday and Tuesday is all full of mobile. Right. But still, these companies just came up with meager announcements, nothing really substantial, nothing really big, and it's just kind of interesting. I mean, you don't see like car announcements or anything, even if CES actually goes all the way to Friday.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that for a second because Samsung, I feel like, was the biggest example of that because listeners, listen, this is what happened. It's cars honking outside. Somebody outside, somebody 24 below is really
That was an outside move.
Somebody heard me say Nokia, and that's why they're...
Here comes the helicopter. All right, run.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, we split our team up pretty logically on the day that Samsung had their big announcement. Nobody knew what Samsung was going to announce, but the Huawei announcement was almost essentially at the same time, so we had to split up our forces. And I tweeted about 2 days ago that like 2.5 hours before the Samsung event, the line had already started outside the doors.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, guys, we got to get in line. So we all took turns like holding our position in line. And when the time came for the Huawei announcement, you and I, Jaime, went down the hall to go cover that.
Stayed in line.
And Brandon stayed in line. And so Jaime and I are covering the Huawei announcement, and we're like sneaking hands-ons before the CEO even speaks. And actually, our Ascend Mate hands-on gets cut short because a woman who was well within her rights to do so was like, "You need to sit down,
gentlemen. You need to sit down now."
Should have unplugged the phone and sat down with the phone.
I was like, "Can we keep it?" I mean,
did you really want to keep it though?
No,
we'll talk about that later.
You're right, we will. But and so anyway, we stay at the Huawei device, the announcement. We're trying to leave, and finally it wraps up just before the Samsung thing starts. We run down the hallway. The line has already started moving into the Samsung event.
It's wrapped around like 7 times.
Oh, it's the most ridiculous. It's like a concert line. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to understand Samsung's mentality this year of doing a first come first serve in a trade show that is so vast. I mean, Samsung does freaking refrigerators,
and they know they're going to be the superstars. So
exactly.
Like,
they do refrigerators, they do TVs, they do freaking microwaves. So just think about how many different categories of journalists we're trying to get in there.
That's a good call.
It made them look really good that the line was so crazy.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly why. Yeah, I think that's why it wasn't.
Samsung's all about like the
theatrics.
They're milking the cow.
Absolutely.
They really are.
Yeah. Well, the end result was that we couldn't get in because Brandon was already in the door. We were getting shuffled. Jaime and I are getting run from line to line. It's like, oh yeah, go in the back. Oh, go in this way. Go in the VIP line. Whatever. By the time we get to the doors, the doors are all closed.
The doors were vomiting people.
And like every time they opened the doors to try and let new people in, like people would fall out. So like the room was insanely packed. It probably was illegally packed. I'm sure it was over capacity.
Most likely.
Yeah, and I don't know. Citation needed, whatever. But we couldn't get in, and we were so bummed. And we started uploading videos from the Huawei event. We're like, whatever. And then we're talking to Brandon via text message, and like we lost you for a little bit. And we're like, is anything cool happening? And what happened in there?
They talked about their 4K TVs, which is cool. Then they talked about a refrigerator, a washer dryer,
an Android powered toaster.
I think they had an Android powered toaster, which is upgradable. It's upgradable to key lime pie. And
I'm bored already.
No, but actually, Samsung had a really big announcement today. Their Exynos, what is it called?
Oh, the Octo Max
their Exynos
88.
Octopus.
Their 8-core chip, which does something really cool with the architecture. I don't even know. I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about with chip architecture. It's got 2 sets of 4 cores. One are A7 cores, one are A15 cores, and obviously the A15 are higher performance. They're the ones that are used for. I look at the microphone. Not you.
I see that.
The A15 cores are used for higher, CPU intensive stuff like 3D gaming. And the A7 stuff is used for the second set of 4 cores is used for email and web browsing and so forth. So the idea is that probably most of the time, 80% of the time, you're going to be using the A7 cores.
Mhm.
And Samsung claims that it's 70% more power efficient than the CPU found in the Note 2 and the Galaxy S3. So this is going to be a badass chip.
Wow.
It's going to be fast, and it's going to have really good power consumption.
You know, in the past, I made this mistake or a terrible assumption. I was like, why are we getting quad-core processor on smartphones? I mean, even if we... And I thought the same about LTE. I was like, what's the point about having LTE if for tethering it does make sense, but what's the point about having so much speed if the browser is not really capable of pushing a speedier navigation process? And as it turns out, well, the 8-core is a solution, but you know, one thing that I've learned about using more powerful computers is that they are more power efficient, aside from being more powerful.
Power efficient, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, for example, we're rocking a Retina Display MacBook Pro right now for all our video rendering. Last year we did everything with 2 MacBook Airs, and it was insane. It wouldn't only take much longer, but the computers would just go berserk after like about an hour. No more power, the batteries were dead, no outlets. And I didn't have that same problem with the Retina Display MacBook Pro. And so that proves to the point that 8 cores or more cores will definitely make the amount of stress on the device much lower, and therefore it does make sense for it to be more power efficient.
Sure, especially as mobile devices become more and more prominent as primary devices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Qualcomm and NVIDIA also announced their new chips, the Tegra 4.
Oh, right. The Tegra 4, and they're much more difficult to remember.
Qualcomm Snapdragon
200, 400?
I think 600 and 800, right?
Oh, right, because 200, 400 were already here.
And, that
And
sounds
they
like a
used to be called the
737.
S4
Yeah.
and then something else.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a 737 something.
So
Yeah.
we tried to...
Qualcomm announced its new passenger aircraft. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So, you know, of course these companies had reference hardware there, but, you know...
Brandon broke it.
You do that to everything you grab.
It's so funny because the woman at the NVIDIA stand was like, this is reference hardware, you know, we're showing a web demo. And I'm like, I don't care, I just want to go in and out of apps and film it for people.
Right.
And she's like, I don't think you can do that. And then it was locked down, and then the password hint was 7777, so I typed 777.
7777, and then
See, it's all passenger aircraft.
right, it is. It's 777.
All right.
Well, Brandon types in the code to get past the lock screen, and like that's when she was being so nice and so accommodating. Finally, Brandon
like,
types
"No.
in, and she's like, no,
This is
no.
not for
She was like
you."
Consuela on Family Guy for a second there. No,
Oh, Consuela.
No, and I was like, okay, and Brandon was very good. Brandon was like, okay, all right, I had to try.
Yeah.
That was good.
So we got some Qualcomm stuff on video, and they showed Asphalt 7, which is terrible on every device except the iPhone 5. Literally every device. But it was actually pretty good on this Android tablet running the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800, 3x3, 4x4.
Whatever.
You know,
Yeah.
737.
turboprop
800.
boost.
And I'm like, I'm working the camera for this video, and I'm like, I both processor tests and these racing games do nothing for me. So I'm like falling asleep. I'm holding up the camera until Brandon like goes back to the home screen, and the developer device like auto rotates from landscape to portrait. And I guess they didn't account for that, so like they couldn't get it back to landscape. So like 30% of Qualcomm's like demo devices are now broken, and the guy's like, what did the guy say?
Get out of here.
Yeah, never come back. Never show your face at Qualcomm again.
We got a good enough video despite breaking yet another device, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we asked the guy, like, why is this called something so... You know, the S4 Pro has such good, notoriety. The brand is so strong. It's the best CPU on the market right now, and they have the S4 Prime for TVs. They should call it like the S4 Pro 2. And people would love that. People like iterative numbers, things that go up, counting things.
Yeah.
Motorola Droid Razr M 4G LTE.
Yeah, Evo 4G LTE,
Why
super epic.
What's the longest
Backflip.
phone name ever that we...
It's the Galaxy S2 on Sprint.
Yeah.
Is that
Epic 4G?
Sprint
4G touch.
Samsung? Yeah, Sprint Samsung Galaxy S2 Epic 4G Touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one takes a cake.
Yeah. It does. Anyway, so yeah, we spend a lot of time with processors, and
Processors
I
would
guess
be fun.
I guess that is cool, and that's one of those things that it's so difficult to get excited about on the surface, because as geeks, you want like, let me see a new device, let me see something completed, let me play with it, and it's a little harder to look further down the road sometimes and see why this stuff is important, but it is. But there wasn't a total lack of devices, as we said. Like while Brandon was busy getting getting the first whiffs of the Samsung connected refrigerator and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
it has Twitter on it. It literally has Twitter on it.
The refrigerator has Twitter on it.
It's so stupid.
I don't
You've got Twitter
need
on your
that at
phone.
all.
You're not being sarcastic, are you?
No.
Like
You look
legitimately,
serious.
like
You
legit.
look serious. Okay.
Legitimately, the refrigerator has Twitter on it.
It has apps. It has Twitter. It has Facebook. It's so dumb. Like, who would stand in front of the refrigerator and flip through their tweets? Like Just because
If
you
I
can.
do, I'm carrying a tablet to do it. This is the same reason I couldn't get excited about the connected car thing we saw. We attended the AT&T Developer Summit, and we saw, they're first of all, that's ridiculous. AT&T is trying to do this thing with connected cars and connected homes, and by ridiculous, I don't mean to be disparaging. I mean, it's pretty cool.
The connected homes was a good idea.
Yeah, but AT&T is trying
what's
to
the name of that service?
Digital Life, right?
It was really good.
AT&T is not on. Those teddygrams are going to make it on the air one way or the other.
Yeah.
But what AT&T is not just doing things that are exclusively mobility, exclusively communications. They're doing like home security now.
Because Verizon is.
And they're both trying to uproot like ADT. But AT&T is going to have call centers. Like AT&T is going to have buildings that it owns with people inside whose job it is to watch your house.
And they're all going to be based in Honduras.
But isn't that crazy? I mean, when I think of AT&T as my communications provider, I don't necessarily think that, these are the guys I want, guarding my front door with electronics. And not that I don't, it's just, a disconnect in my head.
It wouldn't surprise me if AT&T bought a movie studio. I mean, we're seeing like these communication companies. Comcast, owns movie studios, owns infrastructure.
And why? Because they can.
Because they can. They're rich, and maybe one day they'll do cellular somehow.
Right.
I mean, it's all about controlling our devices, our
Definitely. Using our devices to enhance our lives.
Yeah. We're just going to be paying these people for lives.
Right. That's true.
So devices. Let's talk about devices.
Let's talk. So this is what I was saying was why I couldn't get excited about connected cars, because listen, I've got a tablet with me anyway. I don't need a monitor in the back seat of it, but I don't have kids, so whatever. That was the whole thing. We did see some devices though, and what we had to do was we had to focus on every single manufacturer that we could, so that we could bring you guys, the listeners and readers and watchers, all the device coverage that you like and maybe dislike and maybe actively dislike in the comments. And that's fun because we've already had some cool discussions in the comment threads about particular devices. So our first one was on that day with Huawei, and our first experience was seeing some new hardware from them, and they debuted their Ascend D2 and their Ascend Mate.
Sounds like Mate. That sounds like freaking Animal Planet.
Yeah,
I think there's a language issue there. I mean, I don't want a phone that's called the Mate.
Yeah,
I'm mating.
You want? I mean, what if it was like the Ascend, like buddy, or the Ascend like partner?
Man, they should hire you.
The Ascend Buddy.
That's a good one. Why not?
If Huawei made a phone called the Ascend Buddy, I would just buy it out of principle. I think it would be great. But the Mate is their Note competitor, and it is a massive device.
So big.
It's 6.1 inches diagonal, the screen size. Are you?
I'm picturing the phone.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah. So we don't really get to talk about this. Is this a phone? The phone's very thin. It's relatively light. It's got a 720p screen.
And a massive battery.
It's got, how big's the battery?
4,000 milliamp hours.
4,000 milliamp hours.
So it'll probably have slightly better battery life than the Note 2.
Well, it depends. It depends on how efficient.
It depends on how the software is optimized. But it's got the battery life. The raw milliamp hour rating is paired with, what do they call it? Stamina. So this.
It's a 6.1 inch with stamina.
The 6.1 inch device is a lot of stamina. And the thing about it is that I think it was cool because it was Huawei talking about their special how stamina works, because it's not just the airplane mode, right? It's not just that it terminates mobile data to save you power. Like you can shut off specific things.
Yeah.
And you can keep specific things active. I don't know. It seems pretty cool.
Well, don't devices already do that?
Like smart actions on Motorola and stuff like that. Yeah, there are. Actually, there's another manufacturer that was touting something similar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that much. I mean, at the end of the day, it's good if you have like 5% left and you want to be able to make a call in an hour. That's good. But
yeah, I think the Tegra 3 started with the whole idea of, okay, it has a quad-core processor, but it will only use one whenever you don't need the rest of the power.
I think the Tegra 3 only uses one core all the time because its performance is so bad.
I know it's terrible, but I mean the concept, that's like the perfect concept. You've got 8 cores, you're only going to use 2 of them.
Use them dynamically, yeah.
Yeah, dynamically. I think that's like the best way to handle things. Stamina is nothing really new to the market, and my impressions on this phablet were, first of all, it doesn't have a stylus.
First, exactly, is it a phablet? I mean, like, it is by a size-wise, but like,
it's not a note-taking device.
Right. What value is that extra size bringing?
Seriously, just competition. And the CEO of Huawei was so, I was really becoming annoyed at the keynote because he was like, "This is better than competition, and this is better than competition."
Yeah.
And all this is better than competition, and everything was better than competition. And the question is, why doesn't the phone sell better than competition?
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're completely out of focus.
People that need to say it's better than competition.
It's like, how many people... Well, we know that the mobile market is full of people that are like, my phone is better than yours.
Of course.
That's not the perception of Huawei. I think they really need to build a brand upon quality, beauty, design. The phones were not badly designed, by the way.
No.
They didn't look bad.
They didn't blow us out of the water, but they didn't look bad.
They didn't look bad.
Yeah.
I think they were well designed. That's my impression. I just feel that they were completely out of focus. They're doing these phones to compete, but not really to wow anybody.
Yes.
What the Mate will do is
Mate
with it will offer some people the opportunity to have a phone that's tremendously striking.
Tremendous.
It's tremendously tremendous, or it gets a lot of attention. It's very hard to do that. I mean, the Note 2 has become accepted. I mean, how many Note 2s do we see?
Everybody had a Note 2.
They're everywhere here at the show.
Everybody had
and
a Note 2.
And I used mine every day, too, because it's a very good device for covering CES.
I'll give you an idea, listeners. I had never used a Note 2. I had held it before and everything. And so Brandon brings me a Note 2 to this event. I think I've got the biggest hands on the room. And
Let's see. Now we can do this.
Let me see. Okay.
We're doing a hand-to-hand comparison.
Okay.
That's exciting.
I got the small.
Come here,
Brandon's got the phone.
Let me see.
You and I are like exactly timed.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the same hands.
All right.
And still, that device feels humongous. And that's the Note 2, and that's like, for me, the Note 2 is a really thin device.
Yeah.
The problem with the Mate is that it was really big, but it wasn't really all that thin.
No, it's not. It's a little bulky to accommodate that huge cell in there.
So I feel it's going to definitely be like the most tremendous flop of the year.
Yeah, and also I think there's not enough software optimization on the Huawei software side, because this thing is, and Brandon's got a picture of it now. He's kind of looking at it here, and it's really, really nice to be reminded of how big this device really is. Now, to me, I have to be honest. I loved going with you guys on that, but it didn't feel that big in my hand when I was doing either of the two videos. So I could see myself carrying it for a little bit. But I honestly, it's the software optimizations that are wanting for me, because on the Note 2, it was last night, we were leaving an event, I was using the Note 2 to navigate, and I was like, well, I want to be surfing Twitter, and Brandon was like, well, I have to see the picture so we can drive. And I'm like, oh wait, can we do dual screen? And I used multi-screen on the Note 2 to navigate and to surf my Twitter feed at the same time. And that kind of optimization, that kind of intelligent use of the bigger canvas is what I think the Ascend Mate is missing.
And that's what every phablet should do. I think
every phablet should do it. Absolutely.
I think Samsung is doing a very smart thing with phablets. It's like, it's a device that you don't need. You don't need the screen size unless the manufacturer is capable of knowing what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's some value add.
Unless there's some
value. There's got to be a reason for the inconvenience of having such a large phone. In some cases, it is.
Yes.
It's funny because you guys were saying how the CEO of Huawei was like, we do this better than the competition, this better, and
I was extremely annoyed.
It's like they're kind of blind sometimes. Like I was playing with the Ascend Mate, and this Huawei rep comes up to me and he shows me with the most pride I've ever seen anyone exude. He showed me how in the dialer you can switch to left-hand or right-handed mode, like the Galaxy Note 2 out, and that's like an obvious thing. Like, why are you showing me this feature? I mean, it's.
I think there was only one smart thing about that phone, and it was that you could hide the navigation Android buttons.
Oh, that is badass.
That was the only cool thing.
Yes.
That is badass.
So go ahead. You're excited about it. You're most excited.
I love this.
Yeah.
Because, so I like phones that use the virtual Android buttons, because not only can you customize them, but it seems cooler. It makes for a buttonless design. It looks nice on the front.
Absolutely.
So the Ascend D2 and the Ascend Mate, they both have. You can swipe it down on the buttons and they disappear. So and then what happens then is that the app takes over the full screen. So you see it kind of grow and take up another 40 pixels or so. And it's a little thing, but it works so well, and I love it.
And if you want to bring it back, you just swipe up from the bottom.
Up.
That's awesome. That actually, and it's one of the few things. And I don't want to say few things. That's a D thing to say, but it's like that's one of the things that Huawei brought to the software side where it's like, hey, you can innovate.
Do more of that.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but do more of that. Yeah, exactly. And then what? I mean, then the D2 wasn't anything terribly special. It's a new 5-inch flagship. It's 1080p, which is nice.
Wasn't that the one where we can count the frames on when you
on the animation?
Yeah,
I think that was the
ZTE.
ZTE thing.
Yeah, I think it was the D2 as well.
Probably the frame rate suffers because Huawei has their own custom Android skin as well.
Which doesn't have an app tray, it seems.
Oh right.
It's just everything's on the home screen.
It's that Emotion UI is the name of the
UI.
is the Huawei skin.
Why
Yeah.
do you call it that? Does it give you some sort of positive emotion?
Well, yeah, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It pisses me off because it works half the time. It's extremely sluggish.
Mm. We had a demo on that at IFA when Tony and I interviewed one of the guys from Huawei. He was nice enough to give us a demo on that, and I think he was explaining the philosophy behind that is like they're eliminating the app tray to simplify. And
so they're making an Android iPhone.
Yeah,
that's what it kind of feels like. Yeah, you can swipe back and forth, but you have folders and all that kind of stuff. But there's no. Brandon's like, "Where's the app launcher?" I'm like, "Oh, is this running the Emotion UI and that, which is based on How do you pronounce that? MIUI. The
MIUI.
The MIUI.
It has a similar look and feel, and it's funny because I guess that makes sense. So the ZTE devices also feel like MIUI.
Should we talk about the ZTE devices?
I think we should go there.
Yeah.
Talk about Emerald.
Our very helpful ZTE press representative. She's very tall.
She didn't seem fit for the technical type job.
Oh, I think she did a great job.
I think she had another profession.
I think she did a great job. You leave Emerald alone.
So ZTE has the Grand S.
Or the Grand King S.
Okay, I think she was lying to us.
She didn't lie to us. I don't know if she.
By the way, listeners, the description says Grand King S because that's what they told us it was.
That's what they told us it was on the booth floor.
And if you look at the booth, there was really no description of the device.
There was no description, no spec card. It was just
there was nothing.
It was just a row of unlabeled devices. We're like, what is this even?
I know, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
So that's their flagship, and it's funny. It's very very similar to the Ascend D2. It's got the S4 Pro. It's got 2 gigabytes RAM, 5-inch screen, 1080p display, a MIUI they're almost identical except the ZTE device is much thinner.
And it's pretty, I think.
It's pretty good. It's
not a bad looking device.
It's got the weirdest lock screen I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can't understand how to use it. If you watch our video.
If you watch our video, we struggle with that for a second.
Yeah.
Emerald was trying to help you out at that point, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, let me just get in here." So you press and hold on the lock button, and a little lightning bug draws a circle around your thumb, and then it unlocks if you hold it long enough, which I think is pretty cool. That's smart. Yeah.
That was smart. And then you could slide to different applications if you want to slide from the lock screen.
Oh, right.
Or just press and hold, and it'll unlock the phone. That was cool.
Yeah, and then it had that little movable dock that you liked in the video, right? The little button dock.
Oh, for the home, back, and
I didn't actually like that.
You were excited about it on the video.
By it.
Oh, but you didn't like it?
I don't understand when you would use it. The ZTE device has this little dot thing that pops up on the screen on one of the sides, and if you pull out the dot, you get the Android buttons sort of wherever the dot is, like a home and task switcher and so forth. And you can turn it off, but it's strange because you have the buttons just a few inches down below. Why would you want them? Why would you want a home button in the center of the screen?
That's a good point.
So,
yeah,
but it was cool to see because it worked well.
Yeah.
Just
half the time.
Right.
And so the ZTE device, like the Huawei device, was choppy and pretty laggy, pretty slow. It's not a device I would want to carry, although it's coming to the U.S. in 2013.
In 2013, yeah.
And I think
they said the end of 2013.
Well, they said by the end of 2013. I mean, they said sometime in 2013.
Okay,
but they also said they were in talks with a major carrier. And I think, I don't think that thing will be priced very high because ZTE is still very entry level in the States. And
and especially if it comes out, after Galaxy S4, after M7.
But I think it has the potential to be an interesting 1080p entry-level device.
Entry-level 1080p.
Like maybe the first entry-level 1080p device.
Which is awesome.
Which would be cool.
Yeah.
Kids will like that.
A lot of Go phones for $100. That would be good.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Anyway, ZTE's giving me a stomachache. Can we move on?
Can we move on? Yeah.
Can we talk about Sony?
Let's talk about Sony.
Oh, wow.
Sony's booth was not even a booth. Sony had a gymnasium. And when you walk into the place, you're surrounded by this, what I can only describe as like a giant version of a blindfold. It's like a wraparound screen. That's maybe,
good.
what was it, about 15 feet high, and it just encompassed the entire space.
It had like 10 projectors.
Oh, it was absurdly
It's
cool.
So cool.
And most of the time while we're doing the demos, we're surrounded by these like moving ribbons of color.
Yeah.
And they know how to put on a show, man.
They know how to put on a show.
Jeez.
I think they did it much better than MWC last year. They had this song that was just so annoying. It sounded like one of those Japanese mangas. Have you ever heard that music
No.
from like, I don't know.
How does it go? Can you hum it?
No,
Yeah.
come on. I barely have a voice today.
Yeah. Push
But,
it through the
but I
ringer.
feel that they put on a good show. I like the focus that I saw at Sony's CEO,
Yes.
which I didn't see at MWC when he was recently appointed.
Oh, okay.
No,
So he's
he
had
was
time
like
now.
he's grabbing the company. They're doing away with Sony Ericsson, and the guy was like, okay, but no, this guy had 3 focuses, which is digital imaging, mobile devices,
Mhm.
and what was the third one?
Gaming.
And gaming. Those are the 3 focuses, which is funny because they came out with a lot of 4K TVs, and it's not part of their focus strategy. But I feel that he really, really nailed it with mobile. You guys, I know you guys
Yeah.
don't. I don't know if you guys
When, in
agree.
the past or
No. In this event.
Really?
Oh.
In this event.
Well, they
This
didn't
is-
even have any tablets.
Okay, what I'm saying is this is the first time that I see a Sony Xperia device that I want to have.
Really?
Which one do you want to have?
The Xperia Z.
So then the new flagship.
I like it. I really like the phone.
What do you like about it?
It's very minimalistically designed. I feel it's one thing that I love about Sony. My house is full of Sony stereo systems and everything, and TVs. I love their design, good taste. They really know how to make something simplistic look beautiful.
And that's where Apple got a lot of their design cues from in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even Apple would admit that they got their design cues from Sony
Absolutely.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's like if this guy just went back, hired those designers from years ago, and told them, build me a good Xperia.
Then the result would be the Xperia Z, which we
The
saw.
Xperia Z. I did like the design. So far, we didn't really get a chance to use that UI much. And that was part of my disappointment with the Xperia S when I reviewed it. It wasn't a very beautifully designed phone, but I remember that the Xperia S was a phone that would not win any records. It wasn't thinner than anything. It wasn't smaller than anything.
Took great pictures.
It took great photos. And by the way, I mean the same image sensors that are used on the iPhone 5 were built by Sony.
Right.
So I feel that everything has conglomerated into this Xperia Z. I really want to try it. I really do.
How do you think it'll do? I mean, we all had our hands-ons with it. We all put it on the video. I mean,
Well, it depends.
does it have? Because Sony's big thrust with this presentation was they want to wow you. Like
Yes.
they said that about 15 times, and they said they don't understand it when other companies don't set out to wow you. And I have to tell you, I thought the Xperia Z was very pretty, yes, but they've removed so many of the things that made a Sony device recognizable. There's not for example, a transparent band through part of the device with LEDs embedded, which of course is a gimmick, but at least it was recognizable. There is no arc design. The casing is as flat a rectangle as you can get. In fact, it looks just like an Optimus G. So the more I looked at the Xperia Z, the less wowed I was. I mean, granted, it's beautiful, but you have to get up close to see the beauty of the tempered glass, and it's like, well, this doesn't wow me at all, Sony.
I don't know. It did wow me. I think they did overdo it with all the flaps all around the device.
Yeah, there's a cover for every port.
Yeah.
And it's made of glass.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's overkill. It really is.
Yeah.
They overdid that. I mean, they should have just left the bottom with a big hole in it.
Completely
That's why
open.
there's the
And
ZL.
put all the ports there.
Oh,
No,
that's
you
why there's
talk about the ZL.
Yeah,
'cause you,
your favorite.
You fell in love with
The
the
ZL is special. I don't like the Z that much because it has so much glass, too much glass, and then it feels kind of fragile, like the Optimus G or the Nexus 4. I don't want it to
yeah.
fall off the table.
Yeah.
And those flaps are just maddening. And I should also say that the Z's screen and the ZL screen, there's something off about it.
Isn't there?
We were looking at it from pretty extreme viewing angles, and they were just like white.
Yeah, they wash out to
You
really
wash out.
gray.
They were a little washed out, but in my experience with the Xperia S, that was a screen protector.
And it was odd. The demo devices did have screen protectors
They did
on them,
have
which
screen
was
protectors. I don't know why Sony does this. They always ship their phones with an embedded screen
It
protector.
screws up the viewing angles. And
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Despite,
But
so
You go on the ZL.
So the ZL has this awesome feature, and it's not really advertised except in the literature that comes with it, that it has the most amount of screen. The ratio of screen to device facade is the highest of any other device, which makes it look just kind of futuristic, kind of bezel-less.
Yeah.
And it just, when I picked up the ZL, like my tail wagged. You know that feeling like when
Totally.
You know when you like feel something, you're like, damn, yes.
This is
like
it.
when you pick up an iPhone 5 for the first time, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
When you pick up
I felt that about the Galaxy S3.
the Galaxy S3, it's like this thing is so thin and light, it's crazy.
I felt that. Stop looking at me.
Good for you guys. No, that's
Stop
great.
looking at me.
No, please.
So I got that. I got that with the ZL, and the ZL has a matte finish, so you don't have to worry about the glass thing. It's not waterproof,
So much better.
which is fine by me. When I go to the bathroom, I try to not bring the phone after I dropped a sensation in the toilet, but then I set it down.
Yeah.
We call it the P phone. What would we call it?
The toilet phone.
The toilet phone.
Send your toilet phones to Jaime Rivera.
Don't worry, man. My pee's clean. You know, it's not as fancy. It's a more rugged Xperia Z, and I really like it.
Well, it was a cool example of this thing we talk about rather frequently, which is that mid-range phones are getting more and more impressive in various ways, and in some ways they're outstripping the flagships.
Well,
I have wanted mid-range phones more than flagships several times now.
I don't really know if the Xperia ZL would be considered a mid-range.
It's not mid-range. It's high-end.
It's a high-end, but just a different variant, and I think that some carriers are going to pick the glass
All right.
on glass.
No, it's considered in a vacuum. I would agree with you, but put on a shelf next to the Z,
Yeah.
it is a mid-range. It is the mid-range alternative because it's going to be $50 cheaper, or it's going to be $100 cheaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean that's what I mean. I think that it's a vernacular thing, but like
So here's what Sony needs to do with the Z to make it as successful as the Galaxy S3. They need to get it on every carrier.
Yeah.
And they need to not give in to carrier branding, so it's the Xperia Z on every carrier.
Mm-hmm.
They need to market it so that everyone knows that Sony makes an awesome smartphone. And
profit.
Profit and repeat.
Right. But do you think they're going to do that? Because I don't.
Oh, it's very tough. HTC hasn't done it in years. The only company that's done this is Samsung. They've got so much leverage.
Right.
But like those two things are what make the difference between 20 million units and 1 million units.
I noticed that this CEO has a lot of focus.
Yeah. His presentation was rock solid.
And just think about it. I mean, he started his work as a CEO, finally bringing Sony devices back to the United States with the Xperia Ion and the Xperia, which was it that was on AT&T, the T?
Yeah.
The Xperia T. I forget all these names.
Me too.
It's alphabet soup.
I
That's
can't
another
stand
thing.
alphabet soup.
They need to brand.
Oh God, absolutely.
I was about to say that. If I were Sony, I would completely. I don't know. I think the Xperia as a brand, I think it's dead. I honestly think
I kind of agree. It goes back all the way to the Xperia X1.
I was just going to say, I feel like it was never born.
I feel that should have died with Sony Ericsson, and they should have brought like the Sony 1.
Yeah.
Or like the Sony 2.
Sony 1X?
No, whatever, like the...
No, I agree. Yeah, that would have been so much cleaner and brought the Sony name back into the forefront.
Sony phone.
Because what they're doing is they're using the Xperia brand like Samsung uses the Galaxy S3 now.
Right, to much less
and everybody's
effect.
like, oh, you've got the new Galaxy. I mean,
right.
At least they don't use it on the tablets, At least they don't go that far.
Well, they do. They did.
They have
They started that at IFA, yeah.
Well, what is it?
The Xperia Tab or some BS like that. I don't know.
I feel that the Xperia brand should die. I feel that it should be like the Sony 1.
Yeah,
Sony
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I completely agree. Because Sony, for all its kind of inaction in the American mobile space, it's still a well-respected brand name if you happen to buy TVs and home theaters and all that kind
I
of
would
stuff.
seriously be proud to say I have a Sony 100.
phone. Yeah.
Sony 100.
Yeah. Sony 9. Anyway,
Sony 9.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Whatever. It was a fun event, and it was cool to get our hands on some real premium hardware after not seeing much premium hardware. And that's pretty much, would you say that's the only premium mobile stuff we've
Honestly, I feel that Sony saved the day for mobile on Monday.
At CES.
At CES.
Yeah.
Monday was like, oh God, I was like seriously feeling this is going to be like the worst trade show ever.
Yeah.
Because on Monday, just think about it. We were at the AT&T event, which last year had 6 devices. That's the only reason why I was like, okay, let's go. And we got nothing. The Pantech Discover, which we didn't even want to discover. Don't look for a video about that. We're not going to waste your time, listeners.
Right.
Yeah.
So forget about the Pantech Discover. It wasn't even at the show. And that's just to point out that not even the CEO was proud to show it off.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
So then we did
because
Huawei, which was a sort of a waste. It was okay, but it was sort of a waste of time. Samsung, the Samsung event wasn't really a waste of time because Brandon loved the 4K. But we didn't get any devices until the next day, and it was pretty much what is it? The Excalibur,
the Odyssey. No, I do want to.
The Odyssey.
I do want to talk about that because we did.
The Odyssey?
This is the second time we've had this conversation.
I obviously don't care about
It's the second time
What
I've
is it?
reminded Brandon with the Odyssey. It's the AT&T Odyssey, the Samsung Windows phone. So we saw, just really briefly, just to touch on this, we saw 2 mid-range Windows phones, Windows Phone 8 devices at the event, and the first was the Samsung AT&T Odyssey, which Samsung was nice enough to show us at their booth, their large booth. And we got some hands-on video, which you probably saw. And at first, I think everyone thought a couple weeks ago that this was going to be the AT&T S, the high-end Windows phone for Verizon Wireless, because this is a Verizon exclusive for the United States.
We got to play with the AT&T S
And we got to
a few days ago.
We got to review it, and
I got to play with it a few days ago.
Oh, you got to see it. Yeah, right. And it's
the Galaxy S3 Windows Phone 8.
Right, and that's a great thing. I mean, I really like that device. So everyone was excited. It was like, oh, the AT&T Odyssey? Oh, that must be Verizon's AT&T S. No, it's Verizon's mid-range Windows Phone 8, but it is Samsung's first Windows Phone 8 device in the United States.
Right.
And I was telling Michael, it's like, okay, let's film a comparison between this and we actually had an AT&T S with us.
Right.
And Michael was like, what am I going to compare?
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm going to film one video, whether you like it or not. What am I going to compare?
That's true.
And seriously, he was right.
Well, yeah.
He had a point.
You know what? In this same mid-range conversation, and I'll talk about the Huawei W1 in the same breath. Or it is W1, right?
W1,
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Another mid-range 4-incher, 800 by 480. You know, nothing that's going to blow anybody's skirt up, but they're both devices that feel good in the hand, and that people who don't want a jumbo phone. Noah Kravitz had a really good tweet today where he was just like Noah from formerly of Phone Dog.
Okay.
Formerly of Techno Buffalo.
Formerly of Techno,
What was his tweet?
former citizen. Noah had a great tweet where he said something to the effect of, "Oh my God, someone announce a high-end phone that has normal human-sized hand dimensions."
I was just gonna say all of these mid-range phones are thick. There's no like badass thin mid-range phones.
I guess there are a few, but the thing is, because they're thick and because they're small on their face, they feel great to hold. Jaime brought me a Palm Pre 3 today, which I hugged him for a couple days ago,
Why do you say that? Don't tell the listeners about that.
I won't talk about our hugs anymore.
Okay.
But no, and it reminded me of how great it is to feel something in the hand that's not trying to be the thinnest thing ever or the biggest thing ever. It's like, oh wow, this is designed for human hands.
But let me understand, Brandon. Your point is that you want a high-end phone that's smaller. That's what you want?
Yeah.
See, I think
the 4.3. There's like no premium 4.3 inch phone.
Okay,
That's exactly right.
Listeners, do me a favor and hate me for this because I know you will. But I think Phil Schiller said it best. There is no greatness in doing a high-end phone that's bigger. Anybody can do a bigger phone and just fit everything in there.
I agree.
The innovation is if you're actually capable of doing.
Huawei did it in a weekend with the Mate.
Oh god.
They're in a garage. How big? 6.1.
No, they probably started with 5 inches and they were like, okay, can we fit the processor? No, it doesn't fit. Okay, let's add 2 inches.
Huawei came across a box of like old in-car GPS units with huge screens. Like, oh, we can use these.
Yeah. He's got like an Exacto.
And they were like, okay, no, now it's 5.4 inches. They're like, oh my God, the radio, it doesn't fit. Okay, let's go to 5.5.
Right.
And when they finished, by the end of the day, it was a 6-inch phone. That's what happened. And I feel, even if people don't care or don't like the Apple philosophy, I mean, there were 2 devices, which is a complete irony, but it's true. The two devices that I saw on the show floor that everybody had is the iPhone 5 and the Galaxy Note 2.
And the Galaxy camera.
Oh, but there's a reason for that.
Samsung.
Right.
There's a reason for the Galaxy camera to be ubiquitous at
artificially
CES.
boosting the Galaxy camera sales by giving them to members of the press.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean. But here's my thing, right? I like mid-range phones because they're getting so much better, and they really are. And I think it started with the in recent memory, it started with the HTC 8S, the Lumia 820 on the Windows Phone side, and we're seeing
I
more
like
and
the
more
1S
impressive
as
stuff.
well. When they pulled the 1S, it was a mid-range phone that didn't feel mid-range when you grabbed it.
Shit, I meant 8S. I'm sorry, but 1S. Yes, no, you're right.
I did.
On the Android side. So anyway, yeah, we saw some of that. I wish we'd seen more. I still think that one of these days I'm going to buy a mid-range phone that's going to be my daily driver for a while because I'm tired of. I like the utility of the Note 2's larger screen, yes, but I also like a pocketable device.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I had the thought last year, at the end of last year, that I wanted to get the Galaxy S2 again, because my other one's broken, because I threw it across the room.
Oh.
And I want to get a Galaxy S2 again and use it as my daily driver, because that was like one of the best phones I've ever had. It was small, the screen's WVGA, which just burns my eyes, but besides that, it's a mid-range phone now that is so thin and light and just fast and well done.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I think it's a good phone. I don't know. I think, the problem is this, Michael. You've already reviewed all of Nokia's mid-range lineup, and you're not carrying any of them.
The entire thing, yeah.
That's
Why is that?
Then
we'll talk about Nokia, which was pretty much inexistent.
I was just going to say that'll take 20 seconds.
Yeah.
The reason that I don't carry an Lumia 800 series device is because none of the designs. I didn't find any of the designs attractive, physically. I didn't like the hardware. If they were in an 8S body, the HTC 8S, I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was.
So
the thing.
what about
It wasn't
Nokia?
a spec thing. So what about Nokia?
They had a gorgeous press room that they offered us.
Which was very nice of them, and we wish we'd been able to
Very
take them
nice
up
of
on
them. Thank you, Nokia. But we would have wished that there were devices and no press room.
Yeah, but you know what? I think they're saving. I think the common wisdom for all this stuff is that they're saving a lot of this for MWC in their own.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. I mean, they were pretty much inexistent at MWC last year.
Right, and
that's the complete irony.
And we're in a weird trough, right? Because they just released a whole bunch of high end stuff.
They're putting the paperwork together for Microsoft to buy the company. That's why it's
Now that conspiracy theory I've seen so many times.
You know it's going to happen.
It's
Nokia's not
happen.
going to sell enough Lumias to stay relevant or viable.
Yeah.
Microsoft's going to have to save them, and that's it. And they have
That may
some
be true.
contract. They probably have some sort of right of, first
refusal or something. Yeah, no, there's a
they
there's like a triggering
first.
clause, right? Yeah.
And speaking of Microsoft, I mean, Microsoft had pretty much ended the CES keynote every single year for almost the past decade. And it was funny that last year when I was at the keynote, the CEA guy I forget his name, but he was telling Steve Ballmer, it's been a great decade, but this is going to be the last time you're ever going to do this. He was actually that blunt.
Really?
So thank you very much. It's been a great time. And, next year we're going to give somebody else the opportunity. We actually skipped the keynote, but it's just to give you the idea that Microsoft was another company that was completely inexistent at CES.
And yet they were there vicariously through many, many other companies.
Yeah.
Who are very reliant on Windows 8's success.
Oh, yeah. God, we saw a ton of, as usual, as we expected, we saw a ton of Windows 8 tablets, a lot of which we'd seen before.
Oh, you remember that 20-inch 4K
wake me up when you're done
Panasonic
talking
tablet.
about that.
That thing was slower than the insert.
The Open WebOS Alpha on the
just
Galaxy
think
Nexus.
about it. I mean, is there really a graphics processor that's capable of
driving that many pixels?
Dealing with 4K?
There is. They would just have 1 minute of battery life.
Well, he said it was 1 hour of battery
It
life.
says 2 hours, which is better than I thought.
I feel
20-inch tablet.
Seriously, I'll be nice to Panasonic because they were bold enough to build it.
Yeah,
Tell them what. Tell me. So Jaime and Brandon went to go look at this thing. It's a 20-inch tablet. I don't understand why.
With 4K resolution, which is
4K resolution, which is what?
God.
Awesome.
1080
Or what?
times.
what's the resolution?
1080 times 4.
Oh right, we did that. We did this last night. Yeah.
We heard our
2140 or 2160
by like 39.
No, it's a lot more. 2140 is like the iPad.
No, but it's double what 1080p is.
No, it's 4 times what 1080p is.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, it's 4 times what 1080p
Is it really?
Yeah, it's 4 times what 1080p is.
Who knows? But
Can you
anyway.
tell I don't pay attention to resolution?
Yeah.
So you guys went.
You should.
I didn't know. You're the guy on the team that does.
Resolution is the most important part of life.
So it's 320p.
So of course you guys went to go look at this thing, and I don't understand why does this exist? Because I was over checking out other stuff.
Well,
why does this 20-inch thing?
They weren't really planning to sell the tablet. It's like when the original Surface project came from Microsoft.
It's a proof of concept.
It's a proof of concept. What they were doing is building a store demo that would use the extra resolution, and everything looked gorgeous on the tablet. They were like, yeah, it'll probably sell by the end of 2013. I don't care if they don't sell it. I love the fact that 4K is already existent.
It's happening so fast.
And I love the fact that Windows was natively capable of dealing with 4K.
It should be capable of scaling infinitely, right?
Yeah, as long as the graphics processor is capable of dealing with it, Windows will scale.
It didn't scale it the right way. Like, all the tiles were very small when he went back.
And they were off to the left.
But they weren't 4 times smaller, and that's the thing. I mean, I feel that there is a future for 4K. Who knows? We'll probably see the 4K tablets next year on a refrigerator.
Microwave oven with the highest resolution
4K
display
tablets,
ever.
That's where it's at. 8K.
Oh, come on.
I think Panasonic had an 8K TV, which comes after 4K.
Yeah.
And it's real, and it's I could talk all day about TVs, I think.
And still, none of us is going to buy one.
CES 2013 is not a show to come to if you don't want to hear about TVs.
You're going to buy one in 5 years when they're the same price
Come
as
on,
these today.
right now it's more expensive than a mortgage. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy them?
Vizio is doing 3 sizes of 4K TVs between $2,000 and $3,500, which is a lot, but not $10,000.
Okay, let's talk about Vizio, by the way.
Do we?
Yeah, I mean, they launched a couple of devices. The reason
we
why,
haven't seen them yet.
The reason why there's no video for that is because there wasn't any booth.
There was.
It might be in the Venetian.
It should be in the
Las Vegas, by the way, listeners, if you have never been to Las Vegas is the walking capital of the world. If you are at a restaurant and you're having dinner and you need to go to the bathroom, you had better plan on a 15-minute excursion.
Commute.
Every single destination is as far away as possible, and the hallways are scaled to accommodate elephants, I feel like.
And CES is citywide. Like, what convention have you ever heard of that's citywide?
It's incredible.
It's everywhere.
It's not an all-in-one convention center, which is the size of a city block anyway.
It's like we're at a convention center. Let's go check out what Asus has. We have to drive about 30 minutes, or wait in a cab line for 45 minutes, or take a shuttle that stops at many other places, and then finally at the Venetian. It's just
exactly.
Did we ever find Asus, by the way?
But they're in
the Venetian.
But they don't have anything new. I don't think.
That's another case. Last year, at least this year's better. Last year they had a dead booth, very small booth, with dummy units and no representative.
Really?
Asus last year. That's what it was.
Dummy units.
I mean, Asus is like the best manufacturer of Android tablets currently, and for them to not have anything at CES, it's like what?
But you know what? I think it's an indication of how much less seriously manufacturers are taking CES.
And that's a point.
Now, and I think that's been the theme of the year, and most of the commentary is like I've seen several people say that CES isn't really even going to be even as impressive as this in a couple of years. Like it's a platform. Oh, go ahead. It's a platform for smaller companies to be able to get a foothold. Is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It is. I was going to say I have a concern.
Hmm?
I have a concern that Android tablets, the momentum for them is going to slow down significantly. Because if you look at what we have like a device like the Nexus 10, and people don't really talk that much about the Nexus 10. Probably hasn't sold that much. It's an amazing piece of hardware, extremely high resolution display, running the latest version of Android. Then we've got some smaller tablets like the Nexus 7, which is probably the best Android tablet out there. But like at CES, no one did nothing with Android tablets. I feel like the only shining star, the only ray of hope is the next Nexus 7.
Oh, I don't know, man. We went to the Polaroid booth. Oh. But no, you're absolutely right, though.
It's just strange because there's so much enthusiasm for iOS tablets.
Yeah.
And I think the App Store really helps drive that. And apps. And what can Google do? And we talk about this in lots of podcasts and lots of posts. What can Google do to fix the tablet problem on Android? And there's really no answer.
Oh, I think it is doing it. I think it's doing it slowly, and it's the same thing as it's doing on mobile with Google Now and Google integration and the Google ecosystem plugin.
It's enough? You think that'll?
It's enough to make me focus more on straight Google products than iOS ones in the tablet space.
I think I will agree with Google Now.
Google
You know,
Now
I
is
have
awesome.
I have learned how to appreciate Google Now in this trip more than ever.
Yeah.
Jaime and I met at the
God.
airport, and he takes out his Google Now, which was stacked to the fullest extent. It showed his flight arrival. It showed
Exchange rate.
It showed exchange rates, the score to the game that he was watching,
Yeah.
the distance to home.
This is all automatic
everything.
without asking the device.
There are like 15 cards of completely relevant information, and I've
delivered
seen that,
automatically.
and I've seen that on my phone, but.
You know, I think about the iPhone, just going to the United app and looking for when is my next flight, and looking just going app through app of doing what Google Now did in less than a second is amazing.
It would be awesome to have that as a watch, wouldn't it?
I've got. Oh, is that a?
It was a concept, but imagine Google Now streaming to your
to a wristwatch.
And, you know, with Pebble, that might when they open that up, that might be a possibility that a developer could easily allow you to see Google Now stuff on your watch.
Probably, and Pebble just had an announcement this morning where they finally, after months and months and months, said their device is going to be available on January 23rd. It's going to start shipping.
People screaming for their money back.
But you know, I think it's good. We were going to attend. We ended up having a PR obligation that ran late last night. That's not that was actually really, really cool and a lot of fun. But unfortunately, we couldn't make it to the Pebble thing today. So, but we caught up on the news, and it looks like those are shipping, and I'm really, really, really jazzed because we're going to cover that a lot. And it would be great if the developers could write Google Now into that.
But what's the point? You don't want to use an iPhone, so what would you want a Pebble for?
Well, it pairs to Android devices as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now it doesn't.
When I saw the concept, it only worked with the iPhone.
Oh, yeah, they almost immediately broadened it to Android when they started getting like crazy money.
Oh, okay.
Good, because there's going to be such limited things you can do with iOS.
Agreed.
Yeah, Android, it's going to be
extensible beyond belief. If this, then that support.
I have seriously learned to value Android and everything that Jelly Bean has done with Google Now, with everything on this trip. Seriously, I would. It's funny because I'm currently using, and yes, by the way, I am using a Windows Phone, listeners.
Yeah, and HTC 8X. You've been using it the whole trip.
I'm seeing them everywhere. By the way,
Windows phones?
They're the 8X. Like
really?
I've seen like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Really?
I've seen a couple of 8Xs, and so yes, listeners, I am using a Windows Phone 8X, and I will do an After the Buzz to tell you what I think about it.
On the 8X?
But it was just funny because we were thinking about navigation, and then Brandon was like, "Why don't you use the iPhone?" And I'm like, "Why am I going to use the iPhone if I've got the Galaxy S3 here?" It's like I have learned to rely more on Android on this trip than ever before.
And it's been cool. Like seriously, really every cool. 5 or 10 minute time, I will be like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And, like I see him, and I turn around, he's looking down at his Note 2, which is saying something else.
Agreed. I mean, I look at Michael using his Note 2, and I'm like, how can I? For the first 2 days, I was completely on denial mode. I was like, I'll give it a try when I get back to Honduras. I'll give it a try there. And then, I keep looking at Michael doing these crazy things with that phone. And I'm like, okay, fine, all right. I'll sacrifice some pocket space. Bring it over. Let me use it.
Let me just mention that briefly because I think this is something that I never really considered before I started coming to these trade shows and reporting on them. What device is best to cover a show like this?
Yeah.
And I found out that for me, for my usage,
Galaxy Note 2.
The Galaxy Note 2, but more importantly, the Galaxy Note 2 versus my other daily driver, my primary daily driver, the Lumia 920, which I still adore, but which is not useful for covering CES for me because of my tight integration with the Google ecosystem, and also because of the extensibility of the Galaxy Note 2 and the customizability of it. And I've got Flight Board checking my flights on one home screen.
The 920 is like your leisure phone. Like
pretty much
enjoyable thing.
Exactly. The 920 is what I do when I can take a step back and life slows down a little bit and I can enjoy my experience. When I'm trying to get work done, that Note 2 is where it's at.
And the third device would be, I think that I was completely mad at the Galaxy camera. I still consider it to be like the stupidest concept on the planet. But yes, listeners, the only time you would ever need a Galaxy camera is for a trip.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to cover an event, and Samsung was smart about it, they pretty much gave everybody a Galaxy camera to come cover CES, and it was okay.
And they're everywhere as a result, and we've used them with Dropbox integration.
It's super handy. We beamed pictures of the guys at home. We were writing the posts.
Yeah.
We took the pictures. They were linked to the common Dropbox. And
Yeah.
within seconds, they had and the video.
Yeah.
Because Android let you do that.
That was
Which is
great.
great.
That was great. And to be honest with you, I still feel that the Galaxy camera would be. I would pay $450. I would pay $600 if they gave me a mirrorless version of the Galaxy camera. A camera that took great photographs and would also have the data capabilities. But that said, we were at the AT&T Developer Summit, and Brandon was taking these awesome photos of the keynote because of all the 21x zoom that camera has that I did not have on my DSLR, by the way.
Which is pretty cool.
Which was pretty cool, and the photos were okay. I feel that the camera is great if it were cheaper, and if, I don't know.
Can we talk about, I'm sorry, you just reminded me of that developer.
Fire away.
Do you remember the one cool thing about that morning, the really cool thing about that morning? They had an
There
ad.
weren't any.
There was one. There was one.
The burritos.
Oh, the breakfast.
Oh, the breakfast burritos were excellent.
They were
Yes.
fantastic.
No, but not
What did they
those.
taste like? Hi?
Like burritos.
Oh,
Like burritos.
that's for the after the dark.
That's
part.
rated R.
No. But they had a really cool thing at this thing where they had winners of an app development competition. It was like a hackathon. It was like a 26-hour thing, right? And they had 3 contestants come up, and they were all cool submissions. But this guy
Came up with some bunny ears.
so he had the bunny ears that are this retail available thing where you wear them on your head and they read your brainwaves and you can wiggle
like,
your.
This is reading my brainwaves.
Right, and you can wiggle your bunny ears with your brain, and I guess that's pretty cool. But in 26 hours or something, the guy modified it and connected it with his phone so that when he received an incoming call, which he demonstrated on stage, so he had somebody call him, his phone started ringing, and he rejected the call by thinking.
If you're having a high level of brain activity, it rejects the call, and you get like a canned message that says,
"Please try again later."
Yeah.
It's
such a good idea.
It's amazing.
I don't want to
blow my face off. Yeah, well, and he was wearing the bunny ear headset with one bunny ear remaining because he had to take one apart for like parts or something like that. But anyway, that was cool, and that was one of the few like windows into the real future that I saw, or not real future, maybe the less real future. I don't know, but the wild, spectacular sci-fi future that I think shows like CES should provide. But another one was when Brandon and I went to go visit the Qi booth, the Wireless Power Consortium. Jaime, perhaps sensing this was coming, has taken out his newspaper and put on his sunglasses. Jaime, who has not used or ever had any interest in wireless charging, but
No.
Brandon and I checked that out, and the video will be up. Maybe never. Maybe I have to edit this one. I don't know. Should I? Why don't you let me do it? Because you'll fall asleep.
Go ahead.
Okay. We had a wonderful booth tour from a representative of the Qi Wireless Power Consortium, and he showed us all these incredible wireless charging pads, some of which were integrated into automobiles.
That makes a lot of sense because
That makes sense.
when
That makes sense.
When I get
in
in
a
my car, the first thing I do is I take my phone out of my pocket so that I can check my text messages at red light.
And that is
Essential
a place. And that is a place where I don't want wires. I mean, if you gave me an inductive charging pad that also pulled the music from my phone and pushed it to the car, that would be the perfect usage.
Yeah, well, they've already got them with NFC built in. You tap it with NFC, and then you can have it do an option.
But again, what you need is car manufacturers that'll do it.
And they're doing, and the one of the Qi guys the Toyota Avalon, the new Toyota Avalon will have it built in.
I think the coolest thing was the coil that moved based on where you put the phone.
Yes. So one of the big issues with wireless charging that's been so annoying is that you have to put the phone on a very specific little target. And Texas Instruments has developed a chipset that allows that target area to be wider. So on the Nokia Lumia charging pad, you drop it on the charging pad wherever, and it'll charge. So that's fine. But this one was an even bigger one that he showed us. It was about the size of what, like a book, right? Maybe 10 inches by 7 inches. And you drop your phone anywhere on the pad, and it kind of waits for a minute. And then all of a sudden, this blue ring of lights appears on the pad and tracks its way over to underneath your phone.
Oh, that's so sci-fi.
And then it starts. It is awesome. And then it starts
That is
charging.
so alien-like.
I had this thought. So let's say it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we have wireless charging pads everywhere. They're like on the nightstand at the hotel. They're in our cars.
Yeah.
And we're just constantly charging our device. And then it kind of misses the point. It kind of gives OEMs an excuse to not innovate on battery life because we're constantly topping off. You ever think about that?
I think.
Like a wireless charger right now today even encourages you to charge a lot more often.
Absolutely.
True.
But I think that makes, for us, if the entire world had our usage habits and had our consistent love affair with being inside. You know what I mean? Like that would be the case. But I think there's so many people who spend so long away from rooms and out in the world, and are not going to.
Scary.
Terrifying.
You mean you can go outside?
I was just going to say we had that moment a couple times yesterday. We were transitioning between exhibit halls, and we look outside. We're like, there's windows here.
And
There's an outside world.
The sun has changed in the sky.
Now it's over
there's
there.
less light.
What's going on? But that was pretty cool. It was cool to get that through.
I don't know. I still have the feeling that wireless charging, like in a vehicle, it makes sense for me. I hate wires in my car. I do.
Absolutely.
That is like the place where I would love my Honda has this little compartment in the middle that used to be for CDs. They don't exist anymore. Or at least for me, they don't. And that's where I usually place my phones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so if I had a wireless charging pad that I could place there
Bunk.
and just leave my phone, that would be like perfect.
Well, can you do that anyway? If you take just plug it into your cigarette outlet, can you do that?
What? Oh, like a wireless charging pad that
Yeah.
you plug in? You can, but then you got to secure the pad somewhere.
Yeah.
Double stick.
Because it would have to be moving around and everything. So.
Yeah, that's why the magnetic attachment of the Nexus 4 to its charging dock makes a lot of sense. And I wish that was a part of the cheese standard as well.
I do. I just feel I'm not really concerned with what you're concerned, Brandon. I feel that battery technology is still something. It is still even I think it was Steve Jobs that once said it's funny how that's the technology that has least grown. I mean, if you want more battery power, what you need is a bigger battery. There's no way you can make a smaller battery yet.
Right.
And that's really where people need to push. And probably the iPad Mini is like the first example where there has been true innovation on the battery.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
On the design of the battery to make it thinner. And I feel that the problem with wireless charging is still, again, I feel that it's still a gimmick until you get it for free on the box.
And we were talking about this last night.
If you have to buy it, nobody
If it comes in the box, then your game.
Yeah, if it comes in the box, I'll use it.
Why not? Right?
I'll use it. Why not?
I mean, yeah.
I don't really mind if I have to choose between wired charging or wireless charging, as long as it's included in the box. That's me.
And she made a big deal about saying, like, we have a big focus on not relying on interchangeable backs and stuff like that. We want to build it into as many devices as possible. But also, and this is crucial to what you're saying, I think in order for it to catch on in a wide sense, manufacturers have to start including at least one wireless charging plate in the box.
I'll give you an example, and people, most probably listeners, you won't remember this. 10 years ago, or I'd say 12 years ago, if you wanted vibration on your Nokia phone, you needed to buy a special battery.
A special battery, right.
That had the vibration.
Oh, that's true.
The vibration thing.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted, for example, a speakerphone on your cell phone, you needed to buy a special Motorola that included it. And then it started becoming ubiquitous in 2005, I think it was.
Yeah, when everything started getting a speakerphone, which was great.
Yeah, but it was the first Motorola V60S that included the
speakerphone.
The speakerphone.
It was V60V or something like that. Yeah,
the V60X. And so, again, if manufacturers are not really willing to include it somehow, it won't.
And they will, and it is already taking off. I mean, it's not just Nokia that's doing it. I mean, we've got HTC doing it in the Butterfly/Droid DNA. We have HTC doing it for their 8X. Like Verizon in the States seems to be making a big push toward this for some reason. I don't know what the carrier's interest is in having everybody enabled for wireless charging, but what? Brandon has a bemused look on his face as he reclines in a recumbent pose in the chair overlooking the Las Vegas Strip. Let's tune in to his thoughts.
Well, I was going to talk about Noitavani.
Noitavani. So you remember the name?
I did. That's why I smirked. We're walking around in what we refer to as the slums of CES, which is on the sides. There's all these like no-name booths of companies making the stupidest crap you could ever possibly imagine.
They actually have their banners printed out in paper.
Yeah, they draw it by hand, like Ted's iPhone cases, and they're made out of like grass. And so we stumble across this interesting booth called Noitavani, and they've got these devices set up. They've got a tablet, a big tablet, a small tablet, a 10-inch, 7-inch, and a phone with this crazy, awesome, amazing design. And they're all dummy units, kind of like prototype.
Right.
And then next to it, there are a bunch of rugged phones.
Yeah, which are not dummies, which I fell in love with. Yeah.
And what phone is this? He's like, oh, they don't have a name yet.
It was the weirdest thing.
That's right.
And so it's this company who's trying to like make Android devices and with very interesting designs, beautiful designs. And Michael and I were kind of joking on whether it's just another case of a company that
Vaporware.
It really screams. That's the saddest thing about the whole thing to me, because those designs are beautiful. And by the way, that whole team was really amped to when we came around.
Really nice.
They were really nice.
Guy, smelled of cologne. He was so.
He had such a nice suit on.
He had like a sketch pad out, like designing the next.
Yeah,
I wish we could describe the design language. I hate using that word. The design.
The thrust of the whole experience, because they were different. The rugged phones were like Sonim devices, like really bricky things, and
they were like basically weapons.
Yeah, they basically were. Yeah, and then the ones that caught Brandon's eye were beautifully symmetrical on the edges. They were with rounded edges. We
have a video. You gotta see.
Yeah. It's not up yet.
Yeah, it'll be up soon.
But anyway, so but they also had like a race car out there, and they had this weird concept phone that like has a fold out thing, and it looks like a tube of lipstick on steroids, but it has like a pop up display and a physical keyboard, and I don't know, that one to me screamed really, really far out in the future, and not. And
they were like, oh, we've got a prototype on it.
Right, we've got a prototype, but it's not here yet, and it's like, yeah, what you're saying, you don't. Yeah, I don't think they're. So some of it was. That was the frustrating part, because some of it was so like, gosh, I wish this was even close to production, but it's probably not. But then, we couldn't entirely dismiss them, because it wasn't just cardboard dummy phones. They had working models of those big rugged ones. And then, but we fired up one. There was another working device we fired up that looked a lot like a Note 2, and it was running like some rip-off version of TouchWiz.
It had like a 6-inch screen, WVGA resolution, and it had TouchWiz on it.
It was the weirdest thing.
That seems illegal to me.
Yeah. So...
It was orange.
It was orange.
Remember that?
Yeah. A lot of it was orange. A lot was orange, yeah.
That's like the perfect segue to, what is it, Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Oh, mobile Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
What a great time
How do you pronounce
had.
it? Ubuntu.
It's like... yeah, I can't say it.
I was really amped. It's too bad that I wasn't at the booth. I really have high hopes for Ubuntu.
Here's why I care about it. In the not too distant future, the image is going to be released so that everyone and their mother, with a few hours or even an hour or less, can put it on their phone and have an entirely new operating system.
I can't wait. I'm going to do that on the Galaxy Nexus that you so kindly provided.
And I'll take away from you as of now.
No! No, but absolutely. And it was great to see in person. We didn't necessarily expect them to have a demo unit in the booth, but then there it was. And they were nice enough to give us a tour there. And
very good tour.
Oh, yeah.
Using it's like a puzzle. There are just so many gestures and screens and things to figure out.
Well, like Windows 8.
Except WebOS.
Somehow, well, WebOS was simpler than both Windows 8 and mobile Ubuntu, but that's a whole other conversation.
The funniest thing is a nice guy who worked for Ubuntu and had the Galaxy Nexus. We were trying to frame the video, and so we said, Michael said, okay, I know you've been demoing everything. You don't have to do that for us. We just want to see the top 3 things. And he said, I'll give you the top 4 things. In fact, the 4 things are the 4 edges of the screen that you can use. It
was great. It was like such a polished,
The whole usage paradigm is that you use the edges of the screen. So it's a buttonless design. And I think we talked about this on the last podcast, how you can quickly switch between apps, and I expressed concern that you could not go backwards. But what it does is if you swipe from right to left, it goes to your next app, and then it basically cycles. It rotates between 3 apps.
Yeah.
Like the last 3 in memory, which makes perfect sense.
Well, I think it rotates between all the apps that are currently open, right? And
really?
It just cycles endlessly until it starts over again at the beginning.
So you could, I guess, conceivably only open 2 apps. So if you just email web.
Yeah, and you can hop easily between them. Yeah.
Swipe.
Yeah.
Okay. May I make a prediction?
No.
Come on.
No.
Yes,
I'm gonna go with Michael.
Yes,
no.
Of course.
Come on. I'll invite to beer. Okay, listeners hate me for this, but it's going to be true. Either Microsoft figures out how to make Windows Phone 8 something important, or Ubuntu being laid on the same core, Linux core, that Android does, is going to probably be the 3rd operating system in a year.
Not ever.
2 years.
In a year or 2 years? Are you? What?
It's going to be a hobbyist.
Are you high?
It's going to be a hobbyist operating system.
Just think about it. It's open source. Anybody could pull Ubuntu.
But you can't run Android apps on it. That's the...
How much do you think it'll take for that the Android virtual machine to work on Ubuntu?
Well, we saw this thing.
This is a really good segue.
Please explain.
Yes.
Thing.
We were still this applies. We were still in the CES slums, which by the way, I put out on Twitter. I was like, Isn't there like a clever name for this? And like people responded with a bunch of names, and somebody finally said the cesspool with CES capitalized. And I was like, oh. But listen, there's a lot of cool stuff, and I don't want to talk about the fringes in a poor light, but because we stumbled across this outfit that I'd heard of before called the Open Mobile, it's the Open Mobile Alliance, right?
So yeah, something like that.
And I'd heard about them in the context of WebOS because when we talk about things like mobile Ubuntu, Open WebOS, we talk about Sailfish, whatever. We talk about these new platforms, which are maybe beautiful in a UI perspective, and they may work really well, but they have a major handicap in that they have no apps.
That's
the number one. Exactly, and you might as well not even try. And BlackBerry realized this when they developed whatever that virtual Android app runner for the Playbook was. Which I don't know.
Never worked.
Never worked right. There's problems with it.
Right.
You still have to buy it through the anyway.
Anyway, and the Open Mobile folks were very kind. They were under NDA on a lot of stuff. They couldn't show us a lot of stuff, which is maybe why they were on the fringes of CES. And I feel like they maybe had a similar show last year because a lot of people were saying on Twitter like they're basically showing the same exact thing they showed last year and there hasn't been any progress. I'm sorry. The deal is that with the they were basically running apps coded for Android on non-Android devices for us. So they had a Tizen developer device that was running Tizen, but they were running the Android version of Angry Birds. And it's not in an emulator. It's not on a skin. It's not in a window.
It's a native app.
It's not sandbox. Yeah.
You have no idea. And they had a touchpad there that they said could run Android apps.
Yep.
Which would just blow my mind.
Absolutely. And actually yeah. We shouldn't talk anymore about that, but we saw some really impressive stuff.
One question. Isn't Migo, Tizen, all these based on the Linux core?
That's a very good question. I don't know if all of them are.
I believe they are.
Okay.
Linux is like the best
listeners,
invention of all time.
Right, yeah.
Please, listeners, chime in the comments.
I think I'm based on Linux, actually.
Are you? Yeah.
You look a little Russian, yes.
So the point is that, I mean, who knows? This idea obviously has a lot of potential. Obviously, there's a lot of licensing issues. It's probably why we haven't seen big progress on it. But if something like this could gain mainstream acceptance, if you could get suddenly 250,000 apps for your brand new platform, then I would say that maybe mobile Ubuntu has a chance.
It would change the world.
What Ubuntu needs is, number one, two strategies. Either a carrier-based strategy where they would figure out, an OEM that would be willing to push them, like HTC, for example.
Mm.
That's the first thing. Or the second thing would be, if they would allow me to dual boot Ubuntu on any Android phone out there, then that would grow their popularity at the beginning, allowing for, I don't know.
If you could switch, the dual boot's annoying because then you have to shut down.
Yeah.
But if you could quickly switch between operating systems, if you're like, this Ubuntu sucks, I want to get back to
like Parallels or something, or Boot Camp or whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
That doesn't exist for mobile. I mean,
I know.
You can dual boot on the HD2.
You can do anything with the HD2.
I think the HD2 runs OS 10.
Just going to say, you can run a nuclear power plant on the HD2.
I think the only thing the HD2 doesn't run is iOS. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah.
You know about that, but I
don't. Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway. So I was surprised by how small their booth was.
The Open Mobile line?
It didn't really present an impressive aura that they were, really,
that they were close to success.
It seems like, yeah.
And speaking of the smaller booths, no HTC.
Yeah.
But there's an HTC thing tonight.
Oh, there is.
There is.
What time is that?
6.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'll just have devices on display. Maybe it's a social thing. I don't think they're announcing it. They would have done it by now.
They would have done it by now. Unless they're doing this crazy, reverse, psychic move. That would be a cool tactic because everyone's always trying to beat each other before the show starts.
That would be a great tactic.
Right?
Boom.
Wait till the end of the show. It's like, oh, you weren't impressed by CES? I'm very sorry. Here's 8 devices. Blam!
Or here's the
Oh,
M7.
man. That is the smartest.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
That would be sweet.
I would love
I think we should make an announcement today. What can we announce?
Pocketnow announces.
Pocketnow 6.0.
Yeah.
No, I feel. Oh, that would be a really interesting strategy.
Wouldn't it?
Everybody remembers the last thing of everything.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Ending
it's
the
the
show.
last thing that stays on your mind.
There was there was something interesting. There was a flip. Strategy tactics were turned on their heads at the T-Mobile announcement yesterday, which we followed from afar and talked about a little bit.
We couldn't make it to the T-Mobile event, and everybody was.
I wish we had.
I wish we had now too.
I'm like, listen, Gizmodo. let me be honest with you guys. I love your tweets. I love your posts. You guys are hilarious. They were completely just bashing the CEO.
No, they weren't bashing. No, they were rejoicing in his freeness.
Oh yeah.
Because apparently it was the
Didn't he
decision.
say his son's a porn addict?
No, he didn't. No. We've already gotten to that point where we're manipulating, we're twisting everything. No, but apparently some decision was made high in the ranks of T-Mobile to do like, all right, this new CEO is going to give this amazingly entertaining speech.
T-Mobile's doing a good job.
So T-Mobile, the T-Mobile CEO is talking about Verizon. Oh yeah, we respect them coverage-wise. I mean, they have a lot of coverage. They do a great job covering the Dust Bowl with LTE. And he's talking about like shared data plans don't work because Johnny's going to be watching his porn, and it's like, what are you talking? What's going on at the T-Mobile event?
And he was right.
And
he said something that was, it's true.
It was a great job at just what it did was, you already said it. It made me wish that we were at the T-Mobile event.
They announced some pretty cool point differentiators. They're doing their prepaid unlimited data plan.
Oh right.
Which is awesome. They are doing. They're doing LTE. They're getting that out fast. Las Vegas is going to be the first market in a few weeks, and they're going to have 100 million people covered, whatever that means. I have no idea what that means.
Right.
By the middle of the year, by the end of the year, 200 million people, which sounds like by the end of this year...
Well, they're going to cover China as well?
They're getting the super range towers.
Yeah.
By the end of this year, most people should have T-Mobile LTE. So that was the other one.
Which is crazy.
And then the other one was this HD voice thing, which all these carriers have talked about. They've dabbled. There's some phones out there, and no one's taking seriously.
Yeah.
But it's something that...
I think that'll continue to be the case.
Because the device has to support it.
The device has to support it, too. But it's nice that you have a network that says, hey, we're going to support HD voice across our entire network, so when you bring your HD voice devices to our network, they'll work.
Do you think you'll make more phone calls when HD voice is out?
No.
No.
No, I hate phone calls.
What about when HD text messages?
I'll tell you.
Oh, in HD. Oh, when you get those special serifs. Yeah.
I'll tell
when
you.
I can text in Georgia font.
I'll tell you this much. A commenter once asked, "How do we communicate?" Us with
the team. Yeah.
The team, and it's interesting because most of our Pocketnow weeklies have been recorded through Skype.
Yes.
Yeah.
We use Skype, and it's amazing how high definition sound
Skype
is
is
on Skype.
awesome.
Yes.
And you don't really.
You guys sound on Skype clearer than you do right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because we're breathing our own air when we're on Skype, and not this Las Vegas desert.
But the thing is, I didn't really have high hopes for HD voice until Skype adopted HD.
Mm.
And when I started listening to the difference of a phone call through Skype over data compared to a phone call over whatever service you want,
But,
seriously.
Yeah.
Bless you.
There's no mute button in a live recording.
Sorry, guys. But whenever HD HD voice makes it, it's something I really am looking forward to.
Yeah.
I really am.
It's cool, and I think it's cool in a broad sense. Just I don't pay much attention to T-Mobile. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't do well in Boston.
Ads.
I don't like their ads either.
No, I do like their ads.
I don't like their ads.
I like the T-Mobile.
I like the T-Mobile girl.
I don't
on a motorcycle. She looks.
I like the pink color. I
hate the
She
I
pink
like
looks
the
color.
badass.
commercials. Like they're so catchy. Like remember that commercial 1, 2.
No,
Kalamazoo.
stop it. That is the worst commercial to ever hit the
5,
airwaves.
6, West
Stop
Phoenix,
it. I'm not doing that.
7, 8,
Get out of here.
Well,
Leave my room. The thing is, I like that there's a carrier that was on the cusp of a multi-billion-dollar merger. And they said Deutsche Telekom was like, finally we can offload T-Mobile USA, which we don't care about, on AT&T's shoulders, and we'll get rid of this. And T-Mobile was planning for that, and then it got shut down. And rather than like roll over and die or like do something else, they're like, all right, well then we're gonna take this whatever this $10 billion termination fee was or whatever, and we're gonna grab the spectrum that we won from this failed bid, and we're gonna actually do something impressive. I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
I think they're gonna.
For the record, listeners, I think the only carrier that was actually like working here was T-Mobile, and it's because nobody was using it.
I'm not sure. Was it working? Because
I don't even think the CEO of T-Mobile was using its own carrier.
Can we talk about that for a sec? Every year I've been in Vegas, I brought an AT&T phone because I'm usually on AT&T, and I always am very upset that I don't bring a Verizon phone.
And I insisted on you, get some Verizon phones. It's going to be crazy, and it was.
Well, so previous years it was so bad that you literally could not make a phone call for the duration of CES. You could not get a data connection, text message, nothing. Your phone was worthless. It was like you were dead.
Yeah.
And this year, I was so curious because I feel like most people here have high-end smartphones. They have LTE, and LTE is supposed to be much more efficient than UMTS.
Mm-hmm.
And the results are in, and it's not fixed, but it's much better. And what I found happening a lot, and I asked people around me, everyone was dropping down to 4G.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Dropping down to HSPA, yes.
Everyone was dropping down to HSPA, and
the
the latency was pretty terrible, but you could get through. And there was only one or two times where I couldn't make a call, where I couldn't, check my email, and so AT&T fixed.
Yeah,
Please.
yes.
Except when they throttled us every time we wanted to upload
every
a video.
carrier's. We were trying to upload like gigabytes and gigabytes.
A whole bunch of gigabytes. We got some gigabytes for you, internet. Gigabytes.
We're trying to upload ginger snaps. And,
as always.
And it gets like halfway through the video, and then it's like 455 minutes remaining.
Yeah, which is a giant.
I'm like, how long the videos upload's coming? It's like,
it's gonna be coming in about two weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let me get back to
we're live on the ground at CES. We'll be up by February 1.
I'm like, let me get back to Honduras and I'll upload.
I think it's really cool because like LTE, it was a slap in the face for me. I had the opposite level of surprise, and like I was less impressed.
Oh, really?
Because it was like LTE is supposed to like solve all these problems or whatever, and it does, and I agree, it's way better. And like I said, I wasn't here for the all HSPA days of yore. However, it doesn't matter what network technology you're using. I think if you bring 150,000 people into your city and they're all using, half of them or more, no, 3/4 of them or more are using your network at the same time to transmit vast quantities of data.
It just shouldn't.
There's no way to do it.
It really isn't. But
and it's like, I mean, they prepared. We've seen cell on wheels. We've seen cells on light trucks.
They had wireless hotspots all over the show floor.
And they had the distributed antenna system inside.
All over the show floor. There was
AT&T
Wi-Fi, which was actually worse than LTE.
They prepared as much as they could, and still, you cannot prepare enough for that level for that influx. I mean, and I understand that, but it's so frustrating when you're trying to upload a video, when you're trying to get your content out there. You're using, like, say, the press room for the purpose of the press room, which is to get videos and articles and photos posted.
And that actually worked quite well. The Ethernet was fast.
Yeah, but the Ethernet, Wi-Fi was atrocious.
It's funny at CES, and I don't think people can appreciate this. So, what happened is that Michael and I, for the most part, were on the floor filming videos, and Jaime was rendering them and processing them and editing them in the press room. But before that, we had a lot of different plans on how we were going to upload the video. So we had tethering on LTE, on AT&T, on Verizon, on T-Mobile. We didn't have Sprint because Sprint doesn't have LTE here, just barely.
Yeah.
And so we had those three options, none of which worked because they throttle. We had Wi-Fi everywhere, which doesn't work. And then so you're like, how the hell do we upload these videos? So you could go back to the hotel, but the hotel Wi-Fi is terrible. The only option is to go to the press room, which is actually a pretty good option if you can find a seat and plug into the Ethernet. And if you plug in the Ethernet, you got to have an adapter.
Yeah.
So it is like, it's so weird.
There's so many obstacles.
It's so many obstacles to get videos
out to you.
Out there. So, but we got into a really good rhythm.
Got a good groove, yeah.
Yesterday was insane, but it was great.
We still got a backlog of what we've got, about 6 more videos that are actually shot.
We still have the cesspool of videos ready for rendering.
We got cesspool videos. We've got ample blooper coverage. And
Oh God!
We've got some
the CES mattress.
Serta was there, and so we tested out their latest mattress.
Tested out the latest Serta. We tested out the hot dog hut or whatever, the meatball house.
What was that? The wireless mattress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And also we have a kind of behind the scenes video, which we consciously did, showing sort of us.
Yeah. That'll take a little time to edit the way that you listeners deserve, and it'll be up soon. But we really want to show you what it's like to be here, because it's I think it would be awesome if you guys could be with us here. I mean, it's a beautiful experience to be at CES. It's an insane experience, but we really want to share it with you. We really want to share all the craziness that we had to go through to get the content of it. And once we figured it out, it was great. But every year it's different, and every event is completely different.
Yeah.
And this event, I feel, it was more organized than last year, definitely. But still, I have my high concerns about the future of CES after what we saw this year. It's just such an irony. All the press events were focused on mobile, and yet the companies didn't really announce anything that was worth talking about in mobile.
Yeah, and that's sad. I mean, this is, as I've said, my first CES, and I started following CES 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and when I was Phone Scoop was the only website I knew about, and I would follow those guys, and they'd give the announcements right from CES with device after device after device, and like it was perfect. And I've wanted to go to CES for such a long time, and I've had a ball with you guys, and it's been a real wonderful time wandering the trade show floor. But it's sad that kind of storm of hundreds of devices from many manufacturers is no longer the case. Every manufacturer wants to do its own thing.
And I think 2012 was the best example of that. You remember the day that there was a Motorola and the
Nokia
and the iPad Mini event.
Yeah.
No, the iPad Mini event happened a week before.
It was Nokia and Motorola,
and
some other HTC maybe
and
on the same day in New York.
Okay, and then Microsoft 2 days later wanted to release Windows Phone 8.
Right.
And then it was just I think that's
awesome.
I think that's the message. CES is sadly diluted. It dilutes the importance of the company, and I feel that companies are doing it right. Everybody that takes high importance in what they want to show to you will do their own event.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's this airline saying, whenever you want to certify an airline, they're like, this is not a business for poor people. If you're willing to get into this business, you're willing to invest in how you have to build it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that companies in 2012 figured out that what Apple did to come out from complete oblivion, a company that was completely bankrupt, into the most valuable company in the world currently, was that they took their press events seriously. They took their show seriously, and they took the handling of the press seriously. And I think that that's what these companies are doing. They're moving away from CES.
Mm. I think that's a good way to button it up.
I agree.
The CES broadcast is well summed up, and I'm happy to have had the wisdom of you guys who've attended many CESs before to augment my own first-timer experience.
Oh, one more thing. What phone had the butt flap?
The Xperia ZL.
ZL? Yeah, that's right.
No, really?
So Brandon yesterday was asking, like, I'm trying to remember where the ports of the CL were. I'm like, how could you not remember if you've made like the number one buzzword for CES? It's like the butt.
The Sony butt flap.
It's like those jammies that I dream of having one day.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
like
with
this
the
little
hatch on the
access panel. So
Yeah.
when you go to the bathroom, you just do whoop. And it had that. It's like.
Well, if you're using those jammies and you're making that restroom trip in Las Vegas, just be prepared to walk 6 miles.
For the butt flap. And listeners, again, it's been a great pleasure. I apologize for my voice. Yesterday was crazy.
Poor Jaime lost his voice yesterday, and it was just nuts. And we kept telling him, he's like, he just wanted to go home. That's all he wanted to do. And we were like, yeah, but we want to go hang out. Come on.
I was like, I've had enough beer. Let's go.
You were a trooper.
Yeah. Well, my closing remarks will be, there's still more from CES. Again, the event actually ends on Friday. We're actually going to hit the show floor later on.
That's right.
To deal with more things. We just needed to get this podcast out, because if not,
it was never going to happen.
It was never going to happen with so much we've got to do. And I need to go deal with the whole cesspool of videos. But it's been a real pleasure sharing the show floor with you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah,
I mean,
awesome,
it's interesting that, and this is just the thing. I mean, there's this Latin American channel that all our Latin American listeners would know about, which is Univision. And it was interesting because these guys, I felt really good because these guys were with an army of reporters.
Oh, here at CES.
An army of camera people and an army of dated equipment.
Right.
And for a minute there, I saw us three at the press room by our
Sony
by our 24th video already.
Right.
And I was like, man, this is awesome. We are better equipped than this army.
Yeah.
And we actually proved it with what we did. I'm really proud of what we did. I mean, I feel that even though CES was not as impressive as I expected it to be, I feel that we did an amazing job yesterday. And I hope that you listeners, I hope that you feel the same, because we really...
We busted our bows.
We did. And listeners, thank you for writing in with suggestions on what to cover. And we did manage to get to a lot of booths, and we're going to try and get to some more today. We obviously can't get to all of it because even though there are 3 of us here, that is really not enough people to even if we had the entire Pocketnow team here, it wouldn't be enough to cover everything. So we have to pick and choose what we cover. And sorry if we didn't get to what your special request, but we do listen, and thank you for entertaining us and suggesting things on Twitter and through the comments, and just thanks for reaching out and being with us on this fantastical journey in the desert. We're going to go to that In-N-Out burger this afternoon. I'm going to enjoy the F out of it.
What does that mean?
Oh, you know.
In-N-Out burger.
Are you gonna like stick it in your pants?
So you've been talking
You gonna warm
about.
the bun?
As I tweeted last night, I think it's like Jaime, that In-N-Out experience that we have
So
tomorrow.
you guys have been talking about the Yeti microphone, the 6-inch. What
the
was
6-inch Huawei, the 6-inch Mate,
the 6-inch mate?
and the In-N-Out experience.
Now the In-N-Out experience of the burger.
I think we got our podcast title for Z.
Yeah, In-N-Out. All right.
I think that brings us to our wrap up, and that does wrap it up for this special CES edition of the Pocketnow Weekly. Find us on Twitter. Brandon Miniman is at Brandon Miniman. Jaime Rivera is at Jaime_Rivera. Rivera. And you can find me at Captain 2 Phones. Captain the number 2 Phones.
Captain 8 Towels.
Captain 8 Towels as well,
Yeah.
depending on whether you visit my hotel. You can follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow Tweets. Follow us on Facebook, Google+. Leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music to keep the podcast lively and vital.
And sexy.
And if you have a topic, a question, or suggestion for the podcast, or you just want to say hello, you can email us, the podcast at pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Ready to be loud? Oh, yeah. Is it? You getting a good phlegm avalanche there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is a symphony of beauty, right?
We need a camera for this.
We do. That's what I was saying. That's what we should have done. We should have worn Ron Jeremy mustaches for CES. The spheroid,
knobs and the large circumference and the diameter.
the girthy stalk of joy.